Here we go.
All right, good morning. I would say it's going to be a good 90, but we're a man down today.
As you can tell.
Yeah, empty chair, headless hat over there. Mason's head is not in between those earphones. It's just weird. First time ever we've had to play short.
He's alive.
He is alive.
He's alive. Don't.
Yeah,
Barely.
He's gonna make it through the night.
Yeah, the phone call this morning, he was holding on, to say the least. But he is alive.
He could use some chicken noodle soup.
He could, use some chicken noodle soup, some prayers, maybe a cold Powerade, maybe.
Yeah.
Sprite.
Yeah,
Crackers.
a Sprite.
A
yes,
ginger ale. What do you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Fancy Pants.
Yeah.
I guess y'all didn't get healed the right way.
No.
when you were our kid.
We had to do it.
Is that what you're going to
The old-fashioned
prescribe?
way, I guess.
Like put an onion on your feet and drink some ginger ale.
Oh, God.
Like the Nordic
What book you read that out of?
some apothecary book. I don't know.
They used to do that, didn't they?
Yeah. Hey, try
Hey.
that.
I figured you just chunk your kid in the ice bath.
Yeah, know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna whatever it's called.
That's what's wrong with Mason. He doesn't come to the ice bath. That's his problem.
He has his immune system is just
It's bad.
compromised, man.
Yeah.
Needs some orange juice. Needs to eat orange.
Need to be under the ice.
Under the ice.
So we're not actually a good 90 today. What'd you say? We're a good
67.5.
67.5.
Yep.
We have to change the name of the podcast.
Welcome back to the
now.
good 67.5.
Good.
Sounds like a radio station.
It does.
That's 3/4 of 90. If anybody's confused.
We did the math.
Oh, on the calculator.
Yep. It is correct.
Oh, so today we're talking about relationships. That's the idea. This is part one of the Good 90 relationship podcast.
Girls, ew.
All right.
Okay, let's get this over with.
Oh, man.
Do we have to talk about it?
I don't like girls.
It's so awkward.
So uncomfortable.
So yeah, that was going to be nice to have.
Oh boy.
Yeah, to have Mason here.
This whole podcast is really
he-
cracking on it.
He actually is. He actually is dating somebody.
Shout out Celia if you're watching
Yeah.
this. She's there because he's not here right now.
Maybe we should do a call in. That would be good. Get Celia.
Yeah.
Yeah, put her on the mic.
Hey Celia, your boyfriend's not in today.
What do you mean he's not in
here?
Oh goodness.
He's not sick.
All right, no more Mason jokes.
Mason, we love you.
We do love you.
We do
Miss
love you, Mason.
desperately.
Wish you were here.
Yeah. So just reading. I think when we started talking about this the other day, we said, okay, one of the things is the why of relationships. Like, why are we doing it? Like why is this a thing? Like, why is this thing within us to want to be with somebody? Like where does that come from? And why? Because this one thing, it seems like if you look over time, like most people can't fight it. You know, most people want to be with somebody, you know, on some level at some point. Maybe not all at the same age or whatever. I mean, it's not like a magic time, I guess, supposedly. But for some people, you know, it's basically their whole life, you know, that they're wanting that relationship. And other people, it might be longer before they do or whatever. But it's in there. It's kind of deep within who we are. And so we go back to the beginning and look in Scripture, and in Genesis chapter 2, in the sort of second look at the creation story, you get this in verse 18. The Lord God said, "It's not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper who is just right for him." Like when God's creating everything, and He creates, you know, the sun, the stars, He creates man, and then in creating humanity, He makes one. And He realizes, well, there needs to be two, you know. And so, and I'll shout this out, the pastor that did our wedding ceremony, the thing that he included in it, we had two guys do it, Andy Hurst and Lynn Woods. And one of the things I always remember Lynn saying is that he took, instead of taking a bone from Adam's head for the woman to rule over him, or taking a bone from his feet for him to rule over her, he took a bone from his side, and that's how he shaped woman. Just the idea that it's a helpmate, not a servant, not a slave.
Yeah.
It's doing these things together in life, like that. So it's not good for man to be alone. And that's the other thing. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever thought about it. God said, when God made the sun, what did he say about it? Or when he made day, what did he say?
It is good.
Yeah. And then when he made like a walrus or whatever, what did he say?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
This'll
Nice.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
What a creation.
When he made the saber-toothed tiger, he's like, yeah, I did it.
All the angels are like, yeah, that was good.
We love that one.
My favorite.
But then when he made man, he said it's not good for man to be alone. Like, he recognized that, and so to complete creation makes this helpmate, so they're not one, but they're two, and then two that become one, essentially, also, which is kind of neat. Yeah. And so not good for man to be alone, and then that's in verse 18, and then I have to put on my glasses every time.
It's like 21.
Yeah, 20.
23. Or like,
yeah, and that's how he fashioned the woman from the rib, brought her the man, and bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She will be called woman because she was taken from man. And then 24, which Jesus quotes again in the Gospels, this explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. So there we go.
I just love Adam's response. At last. Yeah.
It's about time.
Finally.
I like this one, Lord.
My favorite. Yeah. Yeah. People make the joke like when he says woman, he says, "Whoa, man, that's a good one."
Whoa, man. Yeah.
So that's your old preacher joke for the day. Whatever. So,
all right.
Yeah. But anyway, so Mason, what do you think about it? That was wrong. That was wrong. Dadgummit.
Roasted, baby.
We're waiting. Here we go.
So,
Oh my gosh.
so I think we're really just stalling because we don't know exactly how to jump off the bridge here. So I'll shut up and give you guys a chance.
I think we just jump.
Yeah.
I think that's really. I mean,
Okay.
that. Oh yeah. We just jump. Cool. Yeah, that just explains why we have this craving, this yearning for a relationship with not only just other people, but specifically the opposite sex.
Yeah.
Like it. So if you're thinking like, man, why do I want a girlfriend or boyfriend? Like, God made you that way. So
Yeah.
that's why you crave a relationship. That's why you find people attractive. That's why you have a crush for someone.
Yeah.
Like you were made this way. And so don't be like, oh man, like why do I just want all these relationships all the time? Like, well, you were made that way.
Yeah.
That's the only way to
Yeah,
say
it's
it. You were
not
just made that way.
Yeah, and it is by design, and just thinking about it too, though. Like, and I think what we kind of want to do is talk through, like, okay, so this is the idea. This is where it starts, right? This is what it's supposed to look like, whatever. But we screw it up massively throughout our lives, throughout history of humanity. We've gotten it wrong. We take our own little like splinter off of it and head a different direction than maybe God wants us to. So what we want to just embrace the reality that you are built for community.
Yeah.
You're built to do life with other people, and in particular, you're built to have this relationship, a closeness with one particular person, right? Like that's by design, right? But the world and our sin and we get it way wrong. Sometimes we get it a little bit wrong. Sometimes we get it a whole lot wrong. And so what we want to kind of do is talk about how to kind of bring it back and what it kind of looks like and how to work through it, and understanding that it's not the easiest thing in the world to when you have so many different voices telling you what's what, and well, this is
And like you said, like we are made to have some like this relationship, this innate desire to be with a companion, and we do it wrong, like you were saying. And again, throwing it back, like what was the first relationship? It wasn't man and woman; it was man and God.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to say like you got to have a relationship with God, and then you can do this right with a woman, but that's honestly the truth. Because if you can't, we're gonna go into it. If you don't have that foundation relationship with your Creator and knowing what a relationship is, that's a first step in the wrong direction, because you have no clue how to do that, how to go about a relationship in a truly loving way.
Yeah, because the idea is, Jesus talks about this too, and Paul writes about it, that the marriage between the man and the woman is supposed to be a reflection of the way Christ loves his people, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's the idea, right? And so, and I think you're 100% right in saying that, like getting your relationship with God on track, like understanding that a little bit better, than you normally do, right? Yeah. I mean, like having that first, it's the foundation point for really all healthy relationships going forward. Like, I mean, not just, husband-wife relationship, but, siblings, coworkers, parents, like all that stuff, your friends. Like if you have your relationship with God in perspective, and you understand the way he loves you, and then that's the way you're supposed to love others, well then the rest of this kind of you can navigate it. Mm-hmm. I think a little bit. Like we watched The Chosen season 5 is out in theaters or whatever, and the whole thing is like the Last Supper, and that's one of those conversations where you read in John where he talks about, well, people are going to know you're my disciples by the way you love each other, and if you're in me, then you're going to love others the way that I love you, and all that kind of stuff. So those are these massive foundation points for being able to do relationships right at all. And I'm glad you brought that up, Brady. Like that's huge. And so if you're struggling with your relationships and how to figure them out and how to do them right or whatever, and how to make sense of any of it, well, a really, really, really good starting point would just be to say, okay, God, what about me and you? Where are you with that? Like, figure that one out.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the verse. It's in Matthew, and y'all might be able to help me. I get my verses all mixed up in Matthew, but I quote it all the time. I think it's Matthew 20, where Jesus is being asked, or somebody asked Jesus, what is the biggest or greatest,
the greatest commandment?
It's to love God and to love people. And I love that because it really shows us, hey, what's at the forefront of your life? Is it a relationship, or is it God? And Brady's exactly right. Like it needs to start with the Lord. Matthew 6:33 tells us to seek first the kingdom.
Hey, you got that one right.
I did get that one right, yeah, because I have it in my notes.
I'm gonna fact check them.
I have it in my notes. And I'm also looking at it on my Bible app right now. Yeah. So, but yes, Matthew 6:33 tells us to seek after the Lord, and it goes on to say He will give you everything you need. But in terms of relationships, like you can't do a healthy relationship, whether it be siblings, whether it be somebody you're dating, whether it be a marriage, if you don't have a foundation of Jesus, because He is the ultimate way to love. If you don't if you don't understand the true love of Jesus, you will never fully understand how to love somebody that you think you love. You'll just be loving them in a worldly way instead of in a Christ-like way. And it all stems on, do I understand the love for Jesus? Do I understand the love He has for me, and how much He sacrificed for a wretched sinner like me? And it just goes down this whole, it starts with Jesus. That's really it. I feel like we explain it.
A lot of times we just suck at love in a lot of ways.
That's a great way to put it.
It's either we think love is just an influx of hormones and emotions that we feel, or just attraction and all this good stuff. And like, I ask myself a lot of times, I'm sure everyone else does, like we've had these times in relationships that just nothing goes right. Like, man, I suck. I just keep messing everything up. Like all this stuff, I'm just making the wrong decisions, this and that, and we just mess things up a lot of times because we just don't have that foundation of what really is love. You look at Jesus, and He's the perfect example. He is love itself, like sacrifice. It's the foundation you need to understand how we're supposed to go about these things.
Yeah, I think once you understand that type of love, your perspective of how you love in relationships completely changes. I know even in my life, like when I first understood how Jesus loved me, it was like, I need to love everybody like this because that's what I'm called to do. And that's honestly what people deserve, is to have that type of love where just sacrificial, everlasting, just type of love that Jesus can only provide.
Yeah, so like when you receive grace, when you truly receive grace, then that's when you can actually give it.
Yes.
Right, and that's the thing, right? Because relationships run on grace.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what anybody else says, right? And we may be all over the map today with talking about different things, but I feel like if we want to just say it like this, like in marriage, like if you, like you don't, like we've been married 30 plus years. We're, almost 30 and a half if you want to get some math out, right? But man, I mean, grace is everything in 30 and a half years. Like, I mean, there were some high points and probably times where Shauna might have looked into my eyes and felt like, man, I really love this guy, it swooned over me. I'm sure maybe once or twice that happened, I know flip side of that for me, like, I mean, I look at her and love her tremendously, and I think, man, I'm like the luckiest guy on the planet, right? But we both, if we're honest, we both would say, though, that there have been also a lot of times where just the fact that we're able to give grace to each other is what's gotten us through. Like it's been like some kind of terrible struggle being married or whatever. Like, I don't want to say it like that, but it's grace is the foundation for it, right? Like I don't know how you do it right without a foundation in Christ, without that constant returning to Him. But the reason we know to do that is because we know to do that for our own individual lives, right? And so, and it's so opposite of the way the world works when you think about romantic relationships. If you're a dude, like, well, I'm going to go out and this is who I'm going to find, and, the hottest girl in the room or whatever, and I don't know, man, whatever. It's just, the world pitches it so wrong that and we start out in this really bad place. So it's no wonder, because I feel like most of the time in relationships, people are having to work backward to what's important, and they don't start out in a good way, So I don't know if you guys are clearly way younger than I am, so I think probably you can kind of lead us into that conversation a little bit better.
I mean, let's just, you're talking about, like, we're going all over the place here. Like, let's start, with singleness.
Okay.
Got two single guys in the room, one married guy. We were supposed to have a guy dating, but
Who's that?
I don't know.
Hey, no, stop it. We have a podcast to do.
We can't help it, man. But yeah, I mean, it singleness, I think, is such a gift from God. It truly is. If you look at it, like, and again,
No.
it's so backwards, but it truly is a gift from God if you look at it in that perspective, because you realize, okay, I have all this time, no distraction of a significant other to draw close to God, and that's what it starts with, right? Because ultimately, you go back to that verse, in if it's in Matthew 16, like, love God, that is your first priority. Once you figure that out, then you can start to say, okay, now I can go and love people.
Yeah.
Well, then that starts with,
when you say it like that, I agree with you, but I do think, like, most people are going to call BS when you start trying to say singleness is a gift from God. I mean,
I guess the season of singleness is a gift from God.
Sure,
I would say like that. Now, being single forever, like, that would.
Well,
that would
no,
suck,
I just like to understand it as a gift. Like, again, it has to be like this. Like, it's also the foundation for everything else in your life, right? So no one's going to be like, sweet singleness, I'm right here, man. Stand with me. Like, nobody wants. I mean, no. There are people that want it.
I don't want that. If you're thinking that, like, I don't want that. But I mean, you're exactly right. Like,
I'm just trying to sympathize with the listeners. What I'm trying to do.
Yes. No, sorry, listener. I'm not crazy. I don't want to be single for the rest of my life, but I think it just gives you the opportunity and the time and space to really truly look at yourself and say, would somebody want to be with me?
Yeah.
And then you
Growth.
Yeah,
You can
grow.
grow.
Yeah, you have the opportunity to grow, not only really spiritually. You have that
Yeah.
opportunity to grow and to lean on God's comfort and love and say, hey, God, I'm going to put you first in my life. And then, again, the foundation.
Yeah.
Where does it go from there?
Yeah, yeah, and I just like and there is a truth, right? Like being single is not a curse, and there is this idea of exactly what you're talking about. Like time with you and God is more important than anything else because that is this foundation block, right? And so when you're in college and you're surveying the field or whatever, like how do you guys feel about like not having somebody that you're dating? Like what's your perspective? What was your perspective? What is it now? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's completely different. I think once you have a real relationship with Christ, I think your outlook on everything changes.
Yeah,
and
I would agree.
It's scary, honestly, because I mean, if we're being real here, coming in saying I know Jesus, but I'm looking again for the hottest thing in the room and what she can give me and all these pleasures and all that, which again that doesn't lead down to a good place. I'm sure we all know that, even whether you want to say it or not. But it's hard for me now because I know what I'm looking for, and usually your whole life it's the outer of everything, and of course you want someone that attracts you. I'm not saying that's a wrong thing to do, but you're looking for other things, and sometimes it's kind of hard to find, and you're not used to, I guess, looking for those things, and how to go about conversations, talking to the woman, figuring out what she believes, who she is on the inside, and how she treats people, and usually at a conversation at a bar or something, it's easy when you don't really care about who this girl is.
No,
you can riz someone up pretty easily, just just acting all cool and doing this, not really having a deep conversation. But now I can kind of find myself getting tongue tied. Like, man, how do I even go about this? What do I say? What do I, if I'm making any sense?
I totally agree with you. Like, it's a totally different ball game because I know exactly what you're talking about when you come into college and you're saying that you know Jesus, but you've had this whole perspective of what dating looks like from the worldly standpoint. It's like, oh, well, this is kind of just a game that we're playing. Yeah. Now, knowing the love of Christ and understanding that, hey, the goal is marriage. I think that's a big thing for people is like you kind of go into the dating realm or you're looking for somebody and you're like, yeah, they might,
looking for a partner.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, they might, I may marry them one day, but like now, I think you're kind of looking for this, hey, we're talking about this. How do you navigate these deep conversations to where, hey, I'm not playing this game anymore. Like I'm looking for a partner to do Christ, like to walk this race with me. And it's hard because our, I guess the way we've trained ourselves to pursue, other people has been wrong the whole time. Yeah. And now we have to, train your way new again.
Going into that conversation with this girl, like fighting that fleshly lust desire. Like, I'm not trying to get anything from this girl. Yeah. Like, I'm holding that back. I mean, of course, there's always going to be there, but like, no, that is not right. I know that's not right. And I guess going into it with that new outlook, and honestly, it comes into it, if you really don't know the girl at all, and sometimes it feels weird, like, hey, I'm not into all that. I'm not into the hookup. I'm not into all this. And you're like, gosh, I'm gonna seem like a church freak or something, like
church freak,
Christianese. You know what I mean? And it's like, gosh, and it's scary. That's something that people don't want to talk about, but it is scary going into, because some people are gonna see like, oh yeah, this guy, I'm not gonna be able to have a relationship with him if I can't have any physical intimacy or all this stuff.
Yeah,
like. And that's a true thing. When people believe like that, I can't sustain this if we don't do nothing. That's honestly, that's how people see stuff.
This is my only. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm good.
This is my only Joby Martin quote of the whole thing. I quote him every single episode, but in his last sermon, he was talking about relationships, and he says that in today's society, we're in this like never-ending loop or never-ending cycle of like hooking up, we shack up, and then we break up. It just repeats.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what the world teaches us to do.
Yeah.
And being, I guess, not taught that, because I don't feel like I was ever taught that. I guess just
born into sin, man. It's like we already know how to do it.
Yeah, like I feel like you already knew how to do it, and then you're just, you see the world do it. You look up to people.
Yeah, you are taught it.
Yeah, I guess in a sense.
You're taught it by the world.
Nobody sat down and was like, this is what you
didn't take a class on it,
Exactly.
but you watch TV, you watch movies,
Yes.
you listen to music.
Yes.
You saw other people.
Mm-hmm.
You've been taught it no matter what, and so that's a for real thing. And not to rip off every good quality Christian book on relationships and dating or whatever, but kind of a lot of them say the same thing. So, I mean, there's a lot of truth in this, and the fact that like dating isn't a thing that, like, that's not a real like phase of life. Like, there's not like the people are just, I'm just gonna date or whatever. Well, that's not really biblical in that sense, right? Like, if you're just gonna be in the dating world for the sake of dating, right?
Yeah.
Like what you said earlier made me think of that when you're talking about marriage being the goal or whatever. Well, if that's not it, then you're just like what you just quoted, you're trapped in a loop that doesn't make any sense, because we're not designed just to keep dating people.
Yeah.
Like that's now, but our world would tell you, especially the culture that we're in the U.S., and that's just how it is. You're supposed to date a lot of other people. That's how you find your person or whatever, or I'm just going to date, man. I'm just cool just doing that. And so you're not supposed to just land in the dating world and live in that place for like 15 years or whatever. Like that's not what it is, right? And so I was thinking about this, and we kind of started the conversation this way, but so if that's the goal, right? And so like for guys, like you're out there and you're thinking, okay, so this is what I want to do. Like I want to be a husband. I want to be a father someday. I realize that the way of the world is just completely stupid, and I'm not gonna stick myself in that loop. I want something more out of a relationship. Like if you're even remotely thinking that, then I think, okay, I'm gonna start listening to God, and then the next thing that I'm gonna do, because there's the thrill of the hunt, right, in relationships, and even when you're in just the dating world, like, all right, I'm gonna hunt tonight, whatever, that whole mindset. It sounds, I almost want to throw up saying it, right? But you know what I'm saying. Even still, if marriage is the goal, you're still on the hunt in that sense, and so I know we talked about this the other day, like before I'm going hunting, like there's a whole lot of things I'm doing to prepare myself for the hunt, right? And so I think, and like you're talking about being tongue-tied and not really knowing how to navigate it and all that kind of stuff. So I think what would be cool to talk about is, okay, so what are some things that you're going to do to prepare yourself to be that guy that this girl looks at and goes, man, that's a dude that I want to, somebody like that, like that's the kind of person I'm looking for to marry, to do life with over the long haul. Like, so how do you prepare yourself for that? I mean, we could spend the whole podcast talking about how, well, hooking up is empty and it's wrong and blah, 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 but it is. I mean, I think everybody knows that.
Everybody
I mean,
knows that,
that's like a common thing, because like you said, it's a repeating pattern. You have sex and you have this amazing encounter, but then it's over, and then you're looking for the same thing next week, maybe with the same person, maybe with another person, whatever. I mean, I think everybody is in agreement that that's kind of an empty lifestyle. There's nothing good that ultimately comes from that, right?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you really just ask yourself, like talking about the being prepared or what you're trying to do with that, like, ask yourself, would the kind of person I want to date someone like me right now? And look at yourself in the mirror, truly, and really you should look at yourself in the mirror as a reflection of, am I being Christ-like?
Sure.
Because if you're not being Christ-like, that's the first step, is to, James 4:8. I love it. Draw close to God, he's going to draw close to you, and I think that is the way you do it. You draw close to God and say, hey, God, I'm not looking for this one right now. I'm looking for you. And then once you look for him, he's going to mold you into the man, the woman, that you need to be. And ultimately, you're going to find somebody that has the same values as you and wants to do this God thing with you. And then you're just, I don't know. God's always on time, I think. And if you just draw close to him, he's going to draw close to you. And if you just walk in the light of God day after day, there's just no way you're not going to prepare yourself. I think that is the ultimate way to prepare yourself.
I think preparing for the hunt, if we're talking about it, and I guess that's Christian men, you're probably looking for someone who has a relationship with God.
I think that'd be step one.
That's a pretty good aiming point, I would think.
Yeah.
And so putting it in their shoes, you got to think about who is the right fit for them and what they are looking for in a man of Christ. And I just think understanding the responsibility that God has placed on you as a man, as being, a leader of your relationship or your marriage or whatever that is, and I guess learning to grow in that responsibility. Like, hey, I have to lead. I have to know how to lead. I have to have this courage to step out and, lead my significant other and eventually my children in this relationship and kind of just foster that growth. And I think that's a good starting point in knowing, like, okay, I have this thing that God has just placed upon me, and it's good. It's awesome when you kind of step into that, but it can be scary, I think, knowing, like, I have to lead people. I'm not saying, again, like, they're not your servant and they're not that, but it's a responsibility that you have as a man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and leadership, and that's what I think too about marriage. Like, especially having done it for a while. You both have to learn that. You both have to do that. You can't, like, you cannot do that alone. That's to me. That's why I think, like, drawn together as husband and wife is so cool, because we build off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. There's things that Shauna's good at that I'm not, and then vice versa. I mean, my list of good things is short, really, but for the most part, though, we play off of each other's strengths and weaknesses, and that's the thing too. Like, it talks about how the two become one, like one flesh. Like, what I do affects her, what she does affects me, and so. And I'll say this a lot with couples, like, the only thing between you is God, and he becomes like this glue that holds you together, right? And so when you're not married, like, you're searching for someone to do that with. And so what should be drawing you closer and closer together this whole time is the love of Christ. Like, that's what I think about it. Like, and the more I'm trying to be like Christ and the more Shauna's trying to be like Christ, the closer and closer we get. And I think there's other things that sometimes draw us to people, but they don't stick, they don't last, because then you just pull away from it really quickly or whatever. Like, something might be, you might be drawn to someone in the moment, but if you start looking, you blow that up and talk about long term. Well, yeah, I don't even really like this girl, or it's nothing that I want, or and so we end up in our culture, we end up jumping into this physical relationship so early that's supposed to be part of that glue because it's this God-given thing, but then we haven't drawn together in other ways, and so that becomes this really weak, I don't know, like, not mortar or whatever. Like, there's no real stickiness in it in that regard. Like, it's just loose, man, and it's just I don't know, man.
That's a great way to put it. Like, you're talking about the glue and how we rush to do the physical first more than the spiritual or getting closer in other ways. Like, yes, God made sex.
Yeah,
like, it was a gift.
It's a good thing.
It's a great thing in His terms,
in His context.
Under His conditions, which is marriage only.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of the times we want to do it outside of the covenant of marriage, and then that's when everything starts to become not sticky. Like, you find these false relationships almost in the fact where, oh, I love this girl, oh, I love this guy. Well, you don't love them, you just love the feelings that they give you, right, in the moment, and then you just keep repeating this cycle. And you're talking about the hunt, like, man, where are you? What are your hunting grounds, right? Where are you going to hunt is just a terrible way to put it, but it makes sense.
You're picking up what we're putting down.
Yeah, you understand what we're saying. Like, where are you going to look for a significant other? Like, if you're going to the bar, you're gonna keep falling into this cycle of hook up, break up, shack up, repeat. Like, where are some places that you can go? Like, obviously, if we want to pursue people who have Christ first in their life, I would start at a church, man. I would start in godly community where, people of like-minded are going and gathering to worship the Lord. And
yeah,
I mean, that's where,
there's some real wackos at church though. Sometimes
there is.
too.
Yeah. We could get into
mean,
that whole thing, man. Yeah.
So going back to it, right? Like, so if you establish your relationship with God and you're working on that and you're growing with Him, right? And so that's one. And then if two is, okay, how do I like take on this mantle of becoming someone that's ready for a real relationship? Like, then you start, like you said, you kind of begin to change your focus, you change your hunt strategy. You do it, you start approaching it in a totally different way, and you begin to have real conversations with people. You see people for the value that they bring to the world and to other people's lives, instead of just like what they look like or if they're available. I mean, like those are like the two main qualities, right? Is this chick available, and does she look good? If she checks those two boxes, I'm all in. Well, that's a very shallow, and like you're not going to go very far. And I think there's this thing in Scripture about deep waters, and really like, investing and going out there, and like even Peter and Jesus and the whole deal about throw your boats on the other side of the net. That's a bad strategy. Yeah. Throw your nets on the other side of the boat, for a catch. Like, put out into deep water for a catch. Like those guys fishing, like they kept going out there, and like staying in it. And so that's what Jesus calls us, like, come out to the deep water with me, and then we'll figure this stuff out together. And out here, there's like these endless possibilities of these great things. But if you're stuck down here just in the shallow end and you're just grabbing whatever you can find, well, then you're not going to be in a good place, and you're strictly doing it for the catch, or for the instant gratification, when you could be out here, finding monsters, trophies or whatever, really good things.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome that you said that. It reminded me. It's, I guess, when you have that heart change and that relationship with the Lord, you kind of start seeing the worth of people.
Yeah.
Like that girl you're talking to, like, she is a daughter of the God of the universe. Yeah. Like, she is, like, there's no price. I mean, the price of Jesus coming on the cross, like that, she is that as well, just like you. And I think you just kind of had that lens open up over, like, kind of a godly look on the world. And I think that's beautiful as well. You start to see that, and it kind of it morphs how you go about things, the things you say to her, how you think about her, and like, just every aspect of how you go about this situation. And I think that's another beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's almost like the fear you would have of her earthly father now goes to your your spiritual father. It's like, oh man, like this girl, this guy is made in the image of God, created in the womb. God knew you in the womb, and like I should treat you with the utmost respect, the utmost, appreciation and love, and I should not just use you as, like, I love how you said, like, the shallow, like, if you're searching in the shallow, you're going to end up with shallow relationships.
Yeah.
Like, I think, I don't know about, like, y'all, but with me, like, I look at all these couples who have, like, you'll go to, maybe your grandparents or somebody in church, like, been married for, like, 50 years, 60 years, and everybody's like, oh, I want that. But then they don't look at, like, the deep surface value of, man, they had to fight for that. They had to, they were, probably built on biblical, on Jesus, and they weren't just searching for something shallow. Like they fought for each other. They went to war for each other, man. And that's what Christ did for us. Every day, he goes to war for our hearts, and that's kind of what you have to do each day is to do that. But I loved how you said if you're looking in the shallow, you're gonna find shallow.
Yeah, don't be like
You're gonna catch small fish.
Yeah, you're gonna catch small fish, and I mean, you can only. That's terrible.
You'd say you should operate far from the shallows.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that just goes back to like, what are your eyes fixated on? Are they fixated on these, instant gratification? The highs and lows of the waves. Like, man, I know, like if you're hooking up with somebody and you wake up the next morning and like you feel terrible, but then you keep doing it again.
Yeah.
It's like, well, man, something's got to change, or you're just gonna keep living in this cycle of the hookup culture that the world's in today. And if you want a true relationship, you have to search somewhere different, and you have to fixate your eyes on something bigger than yourself.
Yeah. I think it's also looking at it from this standpoint of, instead of what do I gain out of this relationship, what am I going to give in this relationship?
Yes,
right.
yeah.
That's another way to look at it, because if we're constantly thinking about what we want, and if we're takers, there's a thing in single, dating, engaged, married. I have to say it slow because I always mess up the words, which is not good. But in that book, and he talks about be a fountain instead of a drain, and that's applicable for all of life, right? So like, if you're on a team, if you're at your workplace, with your roommates, whatever, be a fountain instead of a drain. Don't suck life out of people. Instead, you bring the waters of life to people. And then that's very applicable when you start talking about your relationship with like someone leading toward marriage or whatever. Like as guys look to girls or whatever in that situation, like you're a fountain instead of a drain. You're not trying to just take.
And I mean, you say fountain, like, what was Jesus?
Well, yeah, that's where he gets that from.
Yeah, that's where he gets it from. It's
well,
like,
he's a water, a spring of eternal life welling up, inside of us, and so like that's what we got to be. That's what's gonna help a relationship endure. Is the water of life, right? I mean, we could all be in agreement on that. Is like Jesus is what's gonna help us, is what's gonna sustain us. Like, there's so many examples of that throughout Scripture, where God shows up and does that, and so that idea of not being a drain, and so if you take that aspect, if you say, okay, I'm not going to be a taker in relationships, and so you're at that first date with this girl or whatever, and you're like, okay, this is not about me taking, this is about me like
overflowing into her.
Overflowing, right, in that sense, like Christ, kind of coming out of me in this sense, like my words, my actions, that she would see Christ in me, like walking into it in that way, and not as like, this is how I win her over, this is the magic trick. Let me spin this web, and that's where I say sometimes at church, you'll get a lot of people saying the right things, but they're not really living any of those things out. It's kind of easy to sound like this really, good Christian guy or whatever.
Just warrior for Christ. Yeah.
You got the shirt. Your radio stations are, the presets are all Christian stations or whatever. You listen to the right podcast. You whatever. You take notes in church. You can do all those things, but are you really seeking Christ with your life? And is it about Him and not about you? And so, there's so many dynamics in it. And so I guess it's not about where to look. I mean, there's a lot of wrong places to look, and a lot of wrong places to put yourself in, because you'll fall back into traps. But what I do think about is that it's more about you being right in your heart and mind, and then just trusting that God's going to lead you into those right relationships. Because if you come at it from the right angle, then you put yourself in a pathway of where you're ready to meet that person. You're ready for that. And I remember for me, like being in college and finally just going, okay, I'm just going to be done doing it my way, or thinking about this from a temporary lens or whatever. I'm just going to put you first, God. And if you bring somebody, like I want to be married, right? I want to find this awesome girl, but I'm gonna wait on your timetable. I'm gonna be who I gotta be in all my relationships with all these other people. This was like this was right after I graduated college. I was heading into like an internship thing, my first year out, and I knew I was gonna be around students all the time, and target rich environment, if you will, whatever. I was still on the college campus,
The
right?
harvest.
Yeah, plentiful.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, send me out into the field, Lord.
Yeah. Here I am. Send me.
Send me. Yeah. No, I was just like, okay, God, I'm going to do it. I'm going to seek you. And if you bring somebody into my pathway, like my antennas are up, like I'm going to be looking for the right person, but I'm not going to try to manipulate the situation. I'm going to be strictly honest about this. Like that's how I was with God. I'm like saying, like, it is really you and me. Mm-hmm. And if you bring me somebody, then that's great, Yeah. But if you don't, it's still you and me, especially for this year. Like, that's how I was thinking about it, man. And, I think when you get to that place, like, and I know it takes people a while sometimes to get there, and everybody's on a different timetable, but when you can get to that place, like, that's when you're the most healthy and ready that you can be. You're not going to be ready always for everything.
You're content in where you're at.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. When you can get there, then you can go up from there pretty successfully, because you're ready, And again, you're never going to be completely ready. I don't want it to make it sound like I figured it all out and then I was just like waiting, when is it my turn? And that's not what I mean. But like I was content. I was willing to let God take the lead in my life 100%, and it mattered for everything. I wasn't just saying, okay, God, take the lead in dating for me or take the lead in relationship. No, I was like, I'm all in for you here, and so I'm going to let you lead me in the ways that I need to go. And so when girls come along or whatever, I'm going to be able to look to you and go, okay, is this what we're talking about? Mm-hmm. And I knew what I was looking for, because I was looking at Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I was looking up. I was looking at him, and then, if I ended up, basically, it's like if I ended up bumping into anybody along the way, then I was going, oh, okay, Yeah, that's kind of how it was.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's, you got something to say or not?
I was just going to say, that is such a hard place to get to, though. Like, not my will be done, but yours.
Yeah.
And it's tough because, just that's fresh on my mind with the chosen. Jesus was in the garden, and he was struggling. Like, let this cup pass from me. It's not the same context, but
right.
Like, not my will, but yours. And like getting into that place of, okay, man, I don't want to be in this singleness, but there's a reason. Like, there's got to be a reason. Like, I'm growing, or I get to that point of I'm gonna let you take the lead, and I'm just gonna keep looking at you, and if it falls in my lap, heck yeah, that's awesome. But I'm not going to just compulsively just try to manipulate my way and to get to what I want it to be. And I think that's an awesome example of trying to get to that place of contentness and just, okay, I'm going to keep doing what God's called me to do, just keep every relationship in my life doing, like, showing love and doing it the right way. And if it's bound to happen if it's supposed to happen, and you can't just be anxious every day. Like, man, I gotta speed this up. I'm 23, man.
I'm on the clock.
Yeah, like, I ain't got much more years left. Like,
think about that. Like, I have to constantly remind myself of God, not my will, but your will be done. Like, man, how many times have we tried to do something our way and it's just hit the fan?
Yeah.
Like, completely. But if you wait on God's timing and really seek after him, like what you're talking about, like, it's going to be good, because it's his way. And I loved how you said, like, my antennas are up, but my eyes were fixated on Jesus. And I think that's a big problem in today's world, is that our antennas are up for Jesus, but our eyes are fixated on this relationship that we're pursuing.
Yeah.
Is a relationship an idol in your life?
Yeah.
And if that is, man, you need to check yourself at the door, because I know for me that it was a big idol in my life for a long time. Like, I had to check myself at the door. Who is the Lord of my life? Is it this relationship that I was in, or I want to be in, or is it Jesus? And that is a perfect way to put it. Is, yes, your relationship first should be with Jesus, and then your antennas are up. And then, like you're saying, if this guy or girl just passes along, like
Girl.
yeah, girl for me,
Girl.
yes. I'm trying to relate to the listener, man.
Ain't no girls
yes.
listening.
You're right. You're right.
He left already.
Yeah, they left. Yeah, that's what these guys
Click.
don't know
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
They don't get us. Don't worry.
If a girl, yeah, don't worry. If a girl just so happens to pass by, then you look, your eyes are already fixated on Jesus, and you're like, well, Jesus, who's this?
Yeah.
You know, but that for me is a huge thing. Like, is dating an idol in your life?
Yeah.
Is it, because that will draw you away from God.
Well,
it really will.
And then here's the other thing. You're right. And so fast forward a little bit, so Sean and I are in this serious dating relationship, whatever,
Yeah.
And so we're it's not like once you find this person and you both are like, okay, yeah, we're both trying to follow Christ, we get it, It's not like boom, like all these problems go away,
Yeah.
and everything's wonderful and we do everything exactly right. I mean, there's still like you figuring it out, lust is still a factor, and then I think what another problem, at least this was the problem for me, like putting Shauna at the highest place of honor in my life became a problem, because and not even just Shauna, but just the idea of me and Shauna together, like that became a problem, like that became the most important thing, right? And it was, well, that sounds pretty good. Your wife should be pretty important, Yeah, but she can't be absolutely number one.
Yes.
And then definitely holding the relationship together at all cost, can't be number one. Even though, yes, you should hold the relationship together, but that can't be the focus of everything you do. And I think there was a part of me that was like realized pretty quickly, like, hey, I'm pretty fortunate, this girl's pretty awesome. I don't want to screw this up. There was a lot of like insecurities that were running around in there thinking, okay, well, I gotta make sure I do everything right here. And I gotta hold on to her as tight as possible, and all this kind of stuff. And then that became the focus for, I would say, for a few months there of our relationship. And we ended up spending a lot of time arguing about the future because I was worried, where it was going to go, because I was thinking about my next moves and all this kind of stuff. And so even once you meet this person and that, okay, this is like legit, this could work.
It's just a different battleground.
It's a different battleground. Like you still have to train your eyes on Jesus. You have to keep looking to him first and foremost. Otherwise, what could have been really, really good can still turn really, really sour, in a heartbeat. And so it's because, man, it's just, I think probably if I was going back and telling myself two things, I would say, okay, look, right. I know you think it's impossibly hard to pump the brakes on all this physical stuff, but you can do this, all right? First of all, I would say that. And so you need to do a better job of what you're doing. I would have told myself that. But the other thing, and maybe the first thing I would have told myself in that moment, in that time period of dating her is like, hey, you can't just always be thinking about the future and is this going to last or is this going to... You need to soak up these moments, because what you're going to do is you're going to miss out on other opportunities in your life to do what God wants you to do because you're so narrowly focused just on her and this relationship, and you kind of are putting blinders up to everything else, as far as other people that God has put in your life to make an impact on, Don't try to live in this space of just being worried just about the two of you.
Now I'm just a husband.
Yeah. That doesn't. That's not who you're called to be. That's one of the things that you're called to be, but that's not the only thing you're called to be. So, again, like when you're in, because I know a lot of people that are listening are in a relationship too, and so you have to fight for that triangle. I've been doing this with my hands the whole time, just this idea of me and Shauna and then Jesus at the top and us growing together. You have to keep fighting for that the whole way.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't end just because you get engaged, get married, and like, we won, I mean, it's not over.
Yeah, I think
good.
No, I think very quickly, like if you don't fight for that, for Jesus being at the top of your life, like it very quickly can be swooped in by the significant other. And then, like you're saying, these blinders go up to where you're only focused on her, or only focused on him, and that is a constant battle every day to honestly die to yourself.
Yeah.
Because your flesh wants to put this significant other at the top of your life. And yes, that's not a bad thing to do. But who's the Lord of your life?
Yeah, it's just all the BS that you hear out there. Oh, you're my everything, and all this because no, it cannot be that way.
It can't be that
and
way.
you don't
No.
want somebody who thinks that. You
No.
know, because then, gosh, if you put me on the pedestal, well, guess what? I'm going to fall off of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to screw this up. So if I'm your everything, then we've got problems.
That's a great
I'm
way to
about
say
to
it.
let you down
Yes.
at some point,
Yes.
and not intentionally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it won't be on purpose necessarily, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm going to fail.
I'm not
you.
a good person at heart. I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I'm going
and
to
it,
fail.
And it just takes your eyes off of what matters, and going back to that triangle, if you're doing this and you're both looking up at Jesus, it really works, right? But if you start just looking at the other person, then you get distracted. It's just like the joke we made about your mustache. You're like, hey, up here,
eyes up here.
eyes up. don't stare at the stash. Like, there's more to me than this mustache.
Please. I'm a person.
But I think that's like if we take our eyes off of Christ, if we put them solely on the other person, even in a marriage or serious relationship leading to whatever, you're gonna
grow stagnant.
Yeah. You're not gonna grow. There's just so much bull crap that enters in there, and it's that whole thing we talked about who's on the throne of your heart and who's at the hub of your wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's got to still be Jesus the whole way through. Your marriage is just it's an important spoke. It's an important part of the wheel, but it's not the hub.
Yeah. And it's like I was saying, this verse is just in front of my face, but it's saying like if we live as as we live in God, our love grows more perfect. So you're saying if we're not looking up and we're not moving towards God, and we think like, oh well, I'm focusing on my wife or my girlfriend, and I'm loving her more correctly. I'm putting it all in there, but really it's kind of the opposite. Like the way you're loving her it's growing less perfect if you're not continuing to live in God and reaching for Him and walking in His light. Eventually, you're going to turn off towards darkness, and I just don't think real perfected, which we're never going to live perfected love. I don't feel like, but we're not going to live the way as like the best way to love this person. In a way.
And living like in this thing of constantly getting closer to that goal of perfect love, right? Like that, I'm always striving in that direction. I'm believing and hoping that Jesus is gonna perfect me in that way. Like that's the target out there that we're headed toward. But when we when you fix your eyes on something else, then you just end up. You might start off. It's just a little off target, but if you keep doing it though, you just go further and further and further away when you go down the road.
Well, you think about, I love how you keep using your hands because it keeps reminding me, like if you're pointing here, what does Jesus talk about with the yoke?
Yeah.
it's not equally yoked, right?
Unequally yoked, and what does that lead to? Ultimately, it leads to darkness. It leads to darkness, where if you're looking this way, well, you're going the same direction almost. Well, if one of you goes this way, then you're not going that direction.
Yeah.
It takes two.
Yeah.
It really does. And I mean, I fell short of that, like and man, it's hard, but you have to wake up every day and say, hey, this person is not at the forefront of my life. They're not my everything. Jesus is my everything.
And it's hard to do that when you're first in a relationship,
Yeah.
when
Oh
you're
my
young.
God.
We're in the honeymoon stage. I love you after,
and
2
like
weeks.
again, like I don't know where this is at, but like he says, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And
Yeah,
like,
right
as-
here,
as he-
Ephesians 5. I got to pull it up.
As he died for the church, he sacrificed his life. I mean, like, yeah, you're focused on God, but he does call you to have this just unbounding love, and like, don't get us confused. It's not like, hey, wife, I'm chasing God, but like, I think because
Leave me alone.
Yeah, because you do that, man, you have this. I mean, she's gonna realize like, man, this is way better than if he was just all for me. Like it's a more fruitful relationship, and it may not seem like it the way you're talking. Like if you just, it might be a confusing concept, but it really does. The fruit, you can see it, and it's become just an easier way to do things.
Yeah. Well, and that helps too, like, because you're not built for just one relationship. Like you're gonna, if you're married, well, there's a high likelihood you're gonna have children. Well, those relationships are pretty darn important, and you talk about giving grace and dying to yourself. Well, guess what? That's, parent 101 right there. You got to figure that one out, right? And then just in your other relationships with other people, you've still got to be able to do that. So to look at everything through the lens of Christ. And so what does this look like if I'm looking at Jesus and then I see everybody else? And that's why he says, like, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and then love your neighbors yourself. That's number 2, right? Number 1 is love God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength. Like that's got to always be number 1. And again, we're talking about that stuff. Like, God is the author of all relationship, right? Like he so that's our blueprint, right? Like that's who we look to.
Yeah. If you miss that, everything is all thrown off.
So if you're out there in the relationship dating world and you're wondering why it's off, well,
that's why.
It's off, right? And no matter what stage you're at, no matter if you're sick and tired of that culture of hookups or whatever, or even if you're like trying to really date somebody in a right way, but it's still off. Yeah. Well, I mean,
it feels like an empty relationship. Like,
yeah.
Where's it at? Where's that fulfillment at? And it's like, man, Jesus is the epitome. He is love itself. And if you don't know love, it's not there. Like that. There's a reason why it doesn't feel like this is working, or it's just emptiness. And
if you go back and look at your 9th or 10th grade geometry book, like probably nobody has books anymore, but Blaise Pascal or whatever, what's his? Is it Pascal's theorem or something like that? That's like a math thing, right?
Yeah, it's a chemistry thing.
Yeah, he was like a French philosopher or whatever, but he's the one that says that in every human there's a God-shaped hole, a God-shaped vacuum or whatever that only God can fill. And so you try to stuff anything else in there, and I mean, this was drilled into my head when I was in college. If you try to stuff anything else in there, it's just not going to fit. It's not going to work. Like when you're in the nursery and you have that box that has a cutout of the star and the circle and the square, and the other things won't fit.
Banging that square.
It won't go. But because it won't. It won't fit. It won't fill it, and that's why people wake up empty even after these amazing sexual encounters or whatever, because this doesn't fit.
Yeah,
it's not designed. That's temporary, and we're talking about something eternal. There's an eternal hole here, right? Like that only God can fill. And until you fill that, then everything else is going to fall short. It's just going to. It might, if you're a really good person, the relationship might last a little longer, but at some point it's going to fail. It's not going to fulfill you in that same way. It's impossible.
Because we're bound to fail each other.
Yeah,
it's just a ticking time bomb.
It is. And so, without Christ, that's where you are. And so, I don't know, man. Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, that's what I would end with. And you have the a God-sized hole that only God can fill, and
because it was that way from the beginning.
It was that way from the beginning, and everything depends on that.
Yeah,
So
like if you're out there and you're thinking, well, man, I'm just so screwed up, and I can't get out of these patterns, and I can't fix this about myself or whatever. Well, you're right, you can't.
Yeah, absolutely, you're
but
right.
God can.
God can. Yeah.
And what He can do is He can begin to, once He fills you, like you be thinking, oh, all I think about are boobs, or all I think about is this or whatever. You know, like I mean, I'm just seeing sex, or I just want to be in a relationship so bad. I just want to have somebody like. And you think, how can I ever fix this? Well, like we just said, you can't. But when you let Christ in, He can remake you in a way and reshape your desires to desire what He wants for you.
Yeah, like you said, attraction is moldable.
It's moldable. Yeah. God, you're not stuck in this endless thing. Like when Christ is Lord of your life, that's the whole thing. Like He changes you from the inside out. And so then you're talking about real change, not just like a little bitty quick fix thing, or do this for 30 days or 90 days and you'll be in the greatest shape of your life, whatever. No, it can change you from the inside out and shape and mold you so that you begin to see other people differently. And I think we talked about that near the beginning of this thing. When you begin to see other people in the way God sees them, then that's when you're onto something.
Yeah.
Something that actually lasts.
I mean, I think, man, me and you kind of had, similar, I guess, call to Christ or whatever. But, like, I don't know if I could speak for you, but, like, man, I was in that situation where, like, my mind just went after was that. And then now just experiencing the love of Christ and, like, if you're thinking, man, this can't happen to me, like, dude, I thought the same thing. Here I am now, like, I don't think those thoughts anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't wake up every day and, like, I even catch myself lusting and I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
Because I know what I'm rooted in. I know what my foundation is, and I don't want to do these things. And you're exactly right. I can't do them. If I didn't die to myself every day and allow Jesus to come into my life, like, I would still do those things. It's a choice. Man, are you looking for something shallow or are you looking for something deep?
Yeah.
So.
It's a good 90.
Good 90, bro.
Yeah.
Very good.
And that's only part 1, so we are going to do part 2.
Going to do part 2. Do we want to have a little teaser or not?
I don't think we need to worry about that. I mean,
No.
we're going to have a guest. We'll just leave it at that.
We're going to have a guest, yeah.
And then I think the other thing is, like, even after we do part 2, like, this is one of those episodes where I feel like, okay, we're not going to talk about everything that everybody hoped we would say.
No.
There's no way, because there's so much in this, and there's so many specific questions you could have. So this will be a great one to send a question or whatever, because we can extend this discussion as long as we need
Absolutely.
to, because I know this is on the forefront of a lot of people's minds. And, I'm always down to talk about this kind of stuff, and hopefully we don't sound like broken records. And, then the way we do that is by questions, because they lead us into other conversations.
Yeah, so if you
I would
have
encourage
questions,
that.
if you have questions, I mean, you could leave a comment. I mean, most people who listen to this actually know us.
Yeah.
So you could talk
Throw
to us.
up a question thing on Instagram.
Yeah, I could do that as well. Throw up a question thing on Instagram maybe next week.
Or you can mail it.
Email. We actually have an email.
An electronic letter.
Yeah, we actually have an email. But yeah, I think that's like, I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I think that, like you said, that there's so many more questions that we could go down, and so we could definitely extend this.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
but there is a part 2, so we'll look forward to that.
There's a part 2. So yeah.
All right.
All right.
Adios.
Catch you around.
See you, sinners.